Hello everyone and welcome to yet another episode of My Tech Story Africa. My name is Alice Kanjejo, your lovely host, and I am just smiling so much because of the growth we have been experiencing on most of the MTS platforms. I couldn't be more thankful, more grateful. A call for you to please subscribe from wherever you're listening from, whether that's on YouTube or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of the major listening platforms. Check out our website at mtsafrica.co. We are constantly changing our content. We have so much good stuff lined up for you aside from the podcast. So please check us out everywhere else. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you because it means so much to us. And you supporting us also just helps get more people to know about what's happening in the tech landscape, hear these amazing stories that we share here on a weekly basis. And yes, so please support us, subscribe, and tune in. That being said, today's episode is the last of the Moringa school series that we have been having on this podcast. Today's guest is Mercy Thira, and her journey is anything but straightforward into the tech industry. From early experiences with typewriters in her mom's office to navigating a business degree that fell off track, Mercy explored accounting and even contemplated medicine before a web hosting internship, which ignited her passion for coding. Her journey wasn't a linear progression, and overcoming self-doubt and societal expectations that whispered, "This isn't for women," Mercy discovered the strength to persevere through that and become a trailblazer that she is today.
First of all, the setup for in the cohorts we were grouped into, the ladies weren't so many. So we were few, but we'd bundled up together in a good way. But what I was feeling at that point, most people didn't understand why, as a lady, I was spending almost 7 hours on my laptop non-stop at night. Burning the midnight oil. And then they were like, when you get a family, this is not a career for someone like you.
I hate that.
I know, right? But Moringa also was bringing a lot of people to talk to us. So there was a lady who was brought, and she was working, I think, at the time in Safaricom. And that's when I was like, if she's doing that and she's a lady, so I can also do this.
You can also do this. Now, as a software engineer at Pigi and Wire, she pays it forward by mentoring other women, bridging the gap she once faced in the tech world, one dream at a time. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and now we'll just get straight into it. Hello everyone, and thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. Today is no different because we have another amazing guest joining us today as part of the Moringa series that we're having this season. Today we are joined by the lovely Mercy, who I will give the opportunity to introduce herself. Mercy, take it away.
Thank you so much, Alice. Firstly, let me start by saying thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be featuring on this episode and loving what you guys are doing on here. Just sharing the tech stories of Africa to inspire and educate. So my name is Mercy Thira. I am a tech girly. I love calling myself that because already the tech bros have a fancy name.
Yeah,
so
tech bros, even tech girlies. Yeah, we need to have the title.
Yeah, I hold a few roles. I'm a CTO at Pigi, which is a female-led startup that empowers women and youth by providing them a platform to manage their finances and also credit options. Also, I am an engineer, software engineer at Wire, which is a fintech that's based in the US. Also a student at LX, which is part of the African Leadership Group, where I'm doing my cloud computing course since I'm interested in delving into cloud a lot more. And also on the side, I'm a mentor. I pride myself in helping Muso, the ladies who are trying to break into the tech space, by just sharing, because I know it's very hectic when you're trying to break into the space. So I'd love to fill that gap and help bring more women into tech.
Wow. everything that I've heard, I think you're doing this for the girlies. This is also naturally because of the environment of the tech industry. We normally have a lot more male representation on this platform, but it's always such an honor to have another woman beside me just talking about the amazing things that they're doing for the tech industry, not only in Kenya, but across the continent. So I'm just very excited to also hear the conversation that we're going to be having, especially because powerful women are people that inspire me myself in my own individualistic tech journey. I don't know, can I also be considered a tech girly? Because I don't necessarily have the technical skills, but I do empower people in the tech industry. So I don't know if I can really
I think you qualify.
I can qualify. Yeah, I'm a tech girly. So
to the tech girlies.
To the tech girlies. Yay. Okay. So I think now we can just dive into the conversation, and you can just let us know where your interest in tech began, or even before that. What did you think you wanted to be when you were younger? Were you always interested in tech, or where did your journey basically begin?
I'd say it's one of those things that just found me. I'd say it was meant to be, but I didn't know earlier on, but it just found me because actually, I've been looking back and wondering where I first interacted with a computer for the first time. And I figured when I was younger, I used to love going to visit my mom at her office because she had these typewriters, if you know them from back in the day. Yeah, those ones. So I used to love going over there on Saturdays just to type letters, do that. So I feel like that was my first interaction, but I didn't think much into it. I went on to high school, didn't even do computer studies because I was like, I did it in my first and second year of high school, but then I was like, this thing is not for me. So I dropped it and went on to do other things. But now approaching towards where you're about to do your final high school exam, now you're starting to think, what really do I want to do with my time after high school?
Yes.
So still to this point, I had no clue that I'd be in the tech space. So right after high school, I was trying to find something to do, and I got someone who employed me in an M-Pesa. So you see, this is totally different.
Sorry, what do you mean? Could you just run that back?
Yeah.
And who was this somebody, and what was the opportunity that you got straight out of high school?
Okay, so straight out of high school, I did want to stay home.
Did you have an idea of what courses you might want to pursue?
I applied for medicine, but since the cutoff points were too high, I was like, I have to do the parallel program.
Yeah.
But then I was like, am I ready to study for 6 years? So I started looking at other options. That's when I met this lady who employed me to work. She was running an M-Pesa shop.
Okay.
So she employed me there. And that's when I got my final results for my Form 4. And when I was there, I was consulting her because she was the person I knew who could at that point.
Sorry, when you say she employed you, what did she employ you as? What was your role at that time then?
An M-Pesa agent.
An M-Pesa agent.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my role. But this was just to hold time.
Yeah.
Which I wish I had known of bootcamps like Moringa at that point. Because I'd have saved the 9 months I worked in that M-Pesa to at least do a 6-month course in coding if I had known at that point. So at that point now I got to choosing a course that I didn't want to do 6 years of study. So I was either to do a BCom degree or business in IT. And then she was like, BCom, we are employing even people to wipe our shoes who have done BCom. So she was like, don't do BCom, just do business and IT. And that's how I found myself doing business and IT. And
where did you pursue business and IT?
Into JKUAT to do business and IT. First and second year, still no clue that I was going to join the tech space. So I did CPA. I don't know if you know, in the Kenyan industry, the professional certificate for accounting is CPA.
Yes.
So I went on to do that because I was trying to figure out which career
where you can place yourself.
Yeah, where I can place myself. So I was trying to figure out where my footing will be, especially after campus. I met some guys who were in engineering. That was, I think, mechanical or electronic. And these guys had actually dropped out and had started doing academic writing. So I was like, these are guys in engineering who are dropping out to do writing. And I'm in business and IT, which is like a lesser department as compared to engineering. So I was like, is there really hope for me in business and IT and all this accounting and finance that I'm trying to pursue? So I started thinking maybe I should focus more, because the units in business and IT are half business and half IT. But I wasn't interested in the IT because I felt like I'm not that person. So I started thinking maybe I should give attention to IT, but then I was like, I'm not into networking. I don't want to go do cable installations for people. No. So I started now joining clubs at JQuat. I joined the Google Developers Club. I joined Android Developers Club. And I started meeting guys in the tech space. This was something I had no clue existed. Coding, I had no idea it actually existed. So that's when I started meeting these guys, and they were building cool stuff. And I was like, okay, can I really do this? And I wasn't really sure because I felt like it's tough. I tried a few, checking how we're learning lines of code. I'm like, hey, this thing is tough.
It is tough.
Yeah.
Especially when you're beginning.
Yeah. So, but I committed to network a good deal. So even if I don't get direct into coding, at least I land somewhere near, like tech support, stuff like that. So during I now got to do my internship when I was in third year, and I joined a web hosting company. So that was my first real world interaction with IT and coding and softwares. That was when I was like, I think this is something
you
for
can
me.
pursue.
So I did that for 3 months, no pay, but I was doing technical support work.
What does that entail? Like, what was the experience while you were there? And I want to know the emotions you were really going through when you are now trying to figure out, okay, maybe this is something I'm really interested in.
First, it was not easy at all. It was heartbreaking, to say the least, because I remember that was a small, not a large enterprise. So it was a small enterprise, and like they had only one software engineer. So trying to get his time to try and mentor you, because you're
difficult.
Yeah, and you know how there are many technologies to learn. So you don't know even where to start, and trying to get time with someone who can do that one-on-one mentorship with you was tough. So I settled for a lesser role, which was like having people call the company, say their website is having this issue. Then I'd be the first interaction point in terms of trying to troubleshoot where the issue is before I'd escalate this issue. So that's how I started knowing if there's an issue on the cloud, this is what you do. So just getting my hands dirty a little bit with the computers. And after that internship, I say that was my first point where I was like, no, I'm going into this thing hard.
Yeah. So especially, I'm sorry to cut you short, but I think that I'll say I somewhat relate to some extent, because it's like you don't have that personal interaction with the product or what's happening, but just being in a space where people are doing what they're doing, building what they're building, whether it's a website hosting or a product that they're building, you get to pick up on what terms mean, or what it actually entails, what a full stack engineer is, or what a product designer does, UI UX design. And so I think that sparks a lot of interest, and then you're able to know, okay, if I'm really interested in this and maybe I don't have these skills, then how can I provide my input into
For
this.
sure.
So I think that's the point where I think I can say I somewhat relate, and I like that was the moment you decided, okay, this is definitely something I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
So okay, once you've finished your internship, and now maybe you're going back to school, and now this is the path you want to take. What were your next steps?
So when I went back to school now, I remember from what I'd learned during my internship, we'd learned some basic building of website. I got my first client who paid me some good money. I was like, oh, really? So I can make good money with this thing if I invest the time. And I didn't have... I'd not say I was that good, but I had an idea of what I needed to do. Mm-hmm. So going back to campus, getting that client, I was like, now all my courses, I'm going to go hard. If it's networking, I'm going to go hard. Mm-hmm. If it's attending tech events, I'm going to go to them. Anything I was to do anything to just get a grip of what it was, because at this point I don't know exactly which part of the tech space I wanted to be in. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was trying to figure out. So just before I graduated, I went for one tech event at Andela, mm-hmm. and there I met guys from Moringa school who are the ones. It was actually like a workshop, but for a programming language. So I met some guys from Moringa school during that event, and I remember I met one lady that was the first point I had heard of Moringa school. Mm-hmm. We talked, and she was telling me what she's doing, where she's working currently, and she was still in school. She was in campus at that point. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, really? So people are getting employed when they're still in campus. So I decided that's when now... it was early 2020 when COVID struck, just when I was about to graduate, mm-hmm. and we were just being stalled. So I was like, I think I'll take this time to join Moringa school, mm-hmm. see how I'll do it. And before that, I think I met someone who was a guy who was willing, before I joined Moringa, I was like, is this, am I going to be able to do the hard stuff? Coding is not easy.
It's not.
So I got a guy who willingly mentored me the first 3 months. We were always coding at night just to see if I can really do this thing if I take the time. So after that, I joined Moringa school and did it for 6 months. And then 2 months after...
Sorry, could you just confirm what you did at Moringa school for the 6 months?
So I did the software engineering bootcamp.
Okay.
Yeah, where we learned almost everything that was needed to land you your first job, and also the career preparation where you're taught how to pitch yourself on your elevator pitch, mm-hmm. doing your LinkedIn profile, polishing it up, doing your resumes, knowing how to put yourself out there and brand yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's what I really liked about Moringa, apart from doing the coding work, which was very interesting because we'd build products that are used in the market, and that was what I really liked about my experience there. And I remember even for my final project, we were building for a company, and there was that probability of you could get a job with them after.
That definitely pushes
you're always having to be on your toes. The people, your mentors are always having to keep you on your toes. So I feel like that foundation which has added up to where I'm at this point, which I'm very grateful for, to be honest. Yeah, and...
So how was that? I mean, it's been a journey, and now you're actually practically able to code. Over the 6 month period, this thing that you saw was very difficult or maybe impossible for you to do. You had to have multiple interactions before you were convinced that, okay, this is something I definitely want to pursue. I mean, what was that transition like from, it feels like you went from not being confident to being confident that this is what you want to pursue, especially as a woman. Were you seeing maybe in your classes, were you fewer than the male representation? I just want to really understand how the feelings were for you at that time, that you're even building products that are being used on real life use cases, and here you are now being basically a coder. Yeah.
So at first of all, the setup for like in the cohorts we were grouped into, the ladies weren't so many, so we were few, but we'd bundled up together in a good way. But what I was feeling at that point, most people didn't understand why, as a lady, I was spending almost 7 hours on my laptop non-stop at night, burning the midnight oil. And then they were like, when you get a family, this is not a career for someone like you.
I hate that.
I know, right? But Moringa also was bringing a lot of people to talk to us. So there was a lady who was brought, and she was working, I think, at the time in Safaricom. And that's when I was like, if she's doing that and she's a lady, so I can also do
you
this.
Can also do this.
People will say this is not the thing, but what I really liked and what made me stick with it was actually the culture. I loved how I did the entire program at home, never ever meeting these people who are teaching us, never meeting my classmates, but we had formed a great community online. Wow. And that was like, it means I can work from the comfort of my home and do something meaningful, not having to leave, but I'm doing something meaningful. And I was like, I'm going to stick with this to see where it takes me.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I was processing that at that point.
And I love that you didn't let that take you down or push you down, because I think that's also internalized fear that women may have in entering specific industries, where especially, and then having outside voices telling you, as a woman, why are you out, burning the midnight oil? When you get married, how will you be able to handle a home? Who told you I want to get married? Who told you I want to have kids?
I know.
Who told you that this is the passion for me? Who told you I want to be a housewife? I also want to follow my dreams. I also want to pursue this thing of mine. So I'm very happy that you stuck through it, especially after having all those negative voices. And I think it also helps that maybe you were working from home circumstantially because of what the COVID crisis that we had. I still can't believe we went through COVID. Sure. But I think that's very inspiring. And if you're listening to this as a woman, sorry boys, I feel like this episode is very heavily female, but if you're listening to this, I think this is definitely a sign for you to keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. Okay, so now you've built this community at Moringa. You're feeling that this is definitely something you want to pursue. What was next for you after you went through the 6 months of Moringa?
So right after the 6 months, I had every dream that anyone had when they're starting in tech. I knew I'd get a really nice job. And it's funny how nowadays a really nice job is equated to a really nice pay. But that's what my hopes were. And true to what had been promised on joining, I actually didn't take more than 3 months to land my first job. Wow. And it was a US-based company that employed me. So I was like, this investment was really
definitely
nice.
Worth it.
Yeah, so, and that means I was working with multinationals. Now I'm on another level of interacting with people who are building all over the world. So that also was one of those things I look back at and I say, thank God I invested in this, because I never knew this is the path it would lead me to.
Take you to.
So now being able to put what I'd learned, and at this point I'm still not very confident, because 6 months is not a long time to learn something. So now I wanted the experience that comes with building what people are using in the market. So I got my experience there, met some really nice people, and I'd say to anyone who's trying to join the tech space. So how I landed my first job was through networking. So do not underestimate the power of networking. I just go to any event as long as it's a tech event, I'd be there. And I'd try and meet at least one person. And that's how I was introduced to my bosses. And 2 years later, I'm still working for them and I'm loving the job.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Absolutely. And people think networking is complicated, but it genuinely isn't. It takes just one interaction to change your life. It just takes you maybe going to a networking event and speaking to one person who you may not think is someone you might work with, but just also being vocal about what you're doing. That one interaction has the capability of changing your whole life. It doesn't always have to be on LinkedIn or your, every day trying to think that networking is a very complicated task. Even if you're an introvert, I strongly urge people to go for some of those networking events, because even if it wouldn't work today, it might work tomorrow. And if it's not going to work tomorrow, it will eventually make an impact. And if you're not able to do that, if you post yourself on social media, put yourself out there, someone will eventually see it. So I'm just very happy that happened for you, especially from, going back to your story of post high school and being an M-Pesa agent. And at this time, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost seems like you are thinking smaller of yourself, of what your capabilities could be. When you went to your first job, okay, I guess I'll be a technical,
tech support.
Yeah. And at this time, you're still not convinced of the power that you hold within yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's very interesting to see your come up and to see how much more your belief in yourself evolved over time. Yeah. So I love that for you. And now you're working at this job. You're still working at this job as well right now.
Yeah. So working there, that's where I met these ladies who were interested in starting a startup called Pigi. So right off the bat, because I was the only lady in the engineering team, they were like, you should come and work with us because this is a female-led startup and we want to empower women, want to make sure that women have their money game in check. And I was like, I'm on board on that. And that's how we started building this startup. That was in 2021, and we're still going. Actually, last year we got nominated to the Africa FinTech Summit to go and pitch us our product. So it's exciting to see how those small efforts every day they build up.
I love that. But I think I was even at that summit. That's why I was like, this Piggy seems so familiar, because I think maybe I must have interacted with that when I was there.
Yeah. So, and also being able to solve current problems is what actually makes it the thing for me in tech, because you can see a problem, say, that's happening currently in your life, and with the skill sets that you have, you can create a solution out of nothing. As long as you just have internet connection and a laptop, you can do it. So I feel like it's a superpower, kinda, in the sense that you can build something magnificent out of nothing.
Yes.
So yeah.
Ladies, listen to me, and listen to me now. This is your time. Okay? Don't let those people, bully you into thinking that you can't make it.
Yeah.
And this is no hate to men. Of course, we love the engineering and how far they've come into their technical skills. But I also think the female representations needs to be a lot more. And so it also seems that you're also heavily on empowering women and towards their journey. But I think you also mentioned that you're a mentor. Could you also take us through a bit about that?
Yeah. So working at this firm and being the only lady in the engineering team, they were interested in now building, just to create that gender equality to build. So I was approached by my manager, and they were like, you need, because already I was running that on the side, just still, when you come out of Moringa school, these guys still follow up with you, the outcomes team. So I remember I was called to a couple of events, and on this, the one thing that I really noticed of all these engagements is that I'd meet ladies and they were like, how did you do this? How did you make it to this point? And to me, that got me thinking that I remember how it was challenging for me when I was starting, and had it not been for the great mentors that I met when I was trying to figure out my path, I'd not be here, honestly. So I was like, this is something I'd be on board to do. So now that this was brought to me in my team, I was like, this is something I now need to go heavy on, because I think I can make a difference here where it's a gap and it's something I can fill in. So what I have found to be something I really take great pride in is how from nothing, someone as low as an M-Pesa agent can be a programmer and work for international companies. That gives me too much pride to keep doing it, to keep mentoring other ladies, because, you know, as ladies, I think we've been molded to be humble, not too timid. Timid, that's the word. So if I can get that opportunity from sharing my story on how I was timid also, I never thought I'd break into tech, but being able to share that story and inspire other women who are trying to do the same for themselves, even if you do not have the educational background, do not have that self-confidence, you can still do it, and you can even be competing with the guys in the space already.
Because why not?
And that's also what I like, because yes, though it's a male-dominated space, I love that they're looking at how they can bring on board more females to make it a more gender-balanced career. So and also if anyone is on here and they'd like me to mentor them, to help them, guide them through them trying to break into tech, just LinkedIn DM away.
LinkedIn, I think we'll be able to link that information so that they can reach out to you for that kind of advice. And wow, I think just listening to your story, I am feeling inspired myself. And timid is something I have never related to, which is a good thing. I've always been vocal. I guess that's why I even have a podcast. But I guess, of course, not everybody receives it in the best way, especially of the other gender, because, again, we are programmed to be timid, and naturally they are also programmed to receive timid women. And so how do we change that? How can we make a change in that women can also feel empowered, not by being... what's the word for it? Not by being egoistic about their careers, but just confident and be able to have a voice and let them know that their voice matters, and whatever career they choose to pursue, they can always be the best that they want to be if they set their mind to it. So yes, 100% think that whatever you're doing, you purposefully went through this journey, or you are purposed to go through this journey to get to where you are today. So that, and it's beautiful to see that you're also making an impactful change by also empowering other women to do the same. So I'm very happy to have heard that story from you. And I mean, what do you look forward to in the future?
So in the future, actually, I'm looking to change the gender gap in the space. So bring on board more females on the space, and also upskilling myself, because I believe that this is an ending learning game. So if you want to stay on top of the game, you have to keep learning. That's why I'm always doing like 2 studies. So I'm in 2 bootcamps, for example, currently, just because I want to keep upskilling, keep learning, because I have to do that to stay on top of the game. And then technology is always changing. So if you don't do that, you won't learn. So maybe, not sure about a master's, but hopefully I can do that. Yeah.
I can't wait to see how far you go, and I'm just very excited to see where you'll be in the future in the next 1-2 years. And we look back even from the guests that we are having on this platform to see their progress, because it seems that everybody we've had the opportunity to have on this platform is always looking towards the next step. And I strongly believe that yours is going to be a story to behold. And I can't wait to see that journey and how it's going to happen for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with that being said, before we close off this episode, I want to ask you a couple of questions that we ask our guests at the end of every episode. And the first one I have for you is, what's one word to describe the journey to get to where you are today, and why?
I'd say it's been an endless adventure. Yeah.
Why?
Because doing what people call odd jobs to now doing this, I feel like it's two different worlds. You've experienced they call it the Jua Kali, and then now experiencing this laid back, cool kind of culture, let me say. I'd say it's been an adventure for me.
An adventure.
Yeah.
And adventure it has been, because we've had the story. So definitely the word that you can use for that. And do you have any regrets or things that you wish you would have done differently?
I'd say a regret I have had is selling myself short.
Yes.
I
was hoping that's the one you were going to say.
Yeah, that's a regret I haven't. I'd say we learn from the mistakes.
Of course.
So at this point, I'd not sell myself short anymore, because once you sell yourself short, that's the price people are going to buy at. So that's one of my regrets.
When you sell yourself short, that's the price that people are going to buy at.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that. And the last question I have for you is, what advice would you give to someone who's aspiring to get to where you are today?
An advice I'd give to anyone out there who's trying to get to where I am at today is just be daring, have those crazy dreams about where you want to be. People will not understand it in your circles, but just be crazy about your dreams. Like you said, be delulu about your dreams. And go hard. Don't be afraid, because the worst people can do is what?
No. They won't beat you.
Yeah, there's nothing. So just be unafraid to ask for what you want, to say where your mind is at, to raise your voice when you agree or disagree with something. So that's an advice I'd give. And then believe in yourself, because you got it.
You got it.
Yeah.
I'm also telling myself the same thing. But wow, thank you so much for sharing that story. It's been an absolute honor to have you on this platform, and I really hope you enjoyed sharing your story with our audience.
I've really loved it. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
And also looking forward to coming back again with a better
story to share. Watch this space.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. If you're at this point of the episode, thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you support us simply by subscribing from wherever you're listening from, whether that's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of the major podcast listening platforms. You can also join our MTS community through our website at mtsafrica.co. On there, you'll be able to keep tabs with what's happening on the MTS Africa platform, as well as what's happening across the tech landscape across the continent. That being said, I think we can end this episode here. My name is Alice Kanjejo, and thank you so much for tuning in. I shall see you in the next one.